Hey guys, Steve here. Today's review that I'm going to do is one that I think is probably a good follow-up to the last review I did, which was for the movie A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place is a movie that I totally loved. I'm planning on going to see it again soon. Not only that, but I think it's a prime example of how to do horror right. You could use that as a way to teach how to make a horror film effectively. In stark contrast to that, we have the movie that I'm going to review today, which is Truth or Dare, directed by Jeff Wadlow and starring Lucy Hale and Tyler Posey and a bunch of people I really don't care about. Now, for those of you who don't know, Truth or Dare is about a group of college students who go to Mexico for spring break, and for whatever reason, they think it's a good idea to follow this random guy they met there into this abandoned church. At his request, they start playing a game of Truth or Dare, and they find out that this is basically a death game in which you have to play. If you choose Dare, you have to do a dare. If you choose Truth, you have to tell the truth. And if you refuse to play or fail to do your dare or tell the truth, then you die. And the game doesn't stop until everybody is dead. And it involves these kids, playing this game and trying to figure out what the heck is going on and how they can stop it if possible, and PG-13 versions of grisly deaths. Yeah. Now, on one hand, we have A Quiet Place, which, as I said before, I loved. Even after I had really high expectations for it, those expectations were exceeded. Really exceeded. That movie was great. Truth or Dare, I had low expectations for, and the movie didn't even meet those expectations. So usually, when it comes to reviewing movies, I try to start with the positive aspects of a film before moving on to the negative aspects. When it comes to Truth or Dare, finding positive aspects, I'll try. I'll give it a try. Oh, I got one. The acting, not taking into account how the characters were written, and not taking into account character motivation, just the performances and the actors actually, saying their lines and playing the characters as they were written on the page. They did an actually pretty good job. They actually didn't do badly. There weren't any scenes where I was laughing at how badly somebody played something. Now, there is one more positive that I have, which is actually kind of a backhanded compliment, I will admit. There was one character in the film who I actually kind of gave a shit about. There's one character in the film who actually has something else going on outside of the game that he's been dealing with in his life, and the game uses it to play it against him, and that was actually fairly effective. I will give the movie that. That part was actually fairly effective, and this character was actually a decent human being. Now, with that being said, the rest of the movie, I kind of just want to tear it to pieces. Truth or Dare is the perfect example of what is wrong with horror movies today, and more. I want to say that this movie has the stereotypical group of characters who end up just getting killed off one by one and you really don't care about them. The part about not caring about them is true. But what makes this film stand out is that the characters in this film who you're supposed to be rooting for, they're all kind of dicks. You watch this movie and you watch how these characters interact with each other, and it's so poorly written that you think there's no way in hell that these characters would actually be friends in real life. Think of the asshole friend who just says whatever the heck he wants in most movies, and multiply that by 10. And you get an idea of how much of an asshole some of these characters are to each other, even before all the shit hits the fan. There's one particular character in the film. He's a medical student. He actually, walks around saying, I'm a doctor. I write fake prescriptions to the underclassmen. This guy is a borderline sociopath, man. In the first actual death scene in the film, he sees a video of the death occurring. He watches it again just so he can laugh at it. Granted, the guy who died, another character who is pretty much a dick. I would normally say spoiler alert before that, but it's in the trailer. It's something that almost everybody knows by now. It's like they took the stereotypical sex hound character, who's always asking women if they want to have a three-way, mid-conversation for no reason, and multiplies that by 10, and makes him the biggest horn dog you could possibly see, for no reason. The characters in this film are just some of the shittiest characters I've seen in a long time. And another thing I have to point out, whenever one of them dies, none of them really seem to be that sad about it. It's actually, like, unintentionally funny seeing how some of them react. Again, it's not the actors just being bad actors, it's the writers did not write in that, you know, when somebody dies, you're supposed to act like this. Instead, they just wrote further lines to be like, oh, so what do we do now? Oh, let's go to Google. Let's Google this church we found. Let's see if we can find this guy. Oh, someone else died. Let's go ahead and Google that again. Let's see if we can find something. I mean, it's ridiculous what some of these characters do. There aren't very many movies that I will actually go to a theater to see, and something about it infuriates me so much that it actually makes my voice crack. My main problem with this movie that makes me think this is worse than your average bad horror film made today is that not only does it have those really terrible jump scares that have nothing to do with the thing you're supposed to be afraid of, not only does it have poorly written characters, not only does it have plot holes that don't make sense, it has all of those things and more to an extent to where it almost feels like the writers of the film and the producers of the film were banking on the idea that the audience had like a negative IQ. It's almost like they were hoping that everybody in the audience would be dumb and not realize, you know, people don't actually do that. You know, that's not actually how that thing you're using works. That way of describing what's going on, that is the giant ultimatum, doesn't make sense. It's almost like they made the movie and were like, you know, nobody who's going to see this is smart enough to know any of this stuff. Any self-respecting person with a brain and ears will know that's not how things like this work. Now, I tried to give the movie the benefit of the doubt. I tried to think, you know, maybe it's doing this as a way to be, you know, making fun of movies like this. Maybe it's trying to be kind of like Scream or Happy Death Day, where it was kind of making fun of movies in this genre. But I don't think it was. Or either, if it was, I have a feeling the writers were just not sure what they wanted the movie to be. I have a feeling they were kind of shifting tones back and forth in their heads, and I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't really know what direction they wanted the movie to go in plot-wise. And that leads me to one thing that infuriated me about this movie. The ending is one of the worst film endings I've seen in a long time. There are movies that are so bad that they're funny, and then there's Truth or Dare, which is just bad and has not much redeeming value whatsoever. The only way I could actually see myself watching this movie again is if I, you know, selected just some of the funny scenes, because I don't want to sit through the garbage of it again. The other way is if, you know, the guys from MST3K or Riff Tracks actually, you know, did a commentary track over it. I could see myself watching it then, because it is that bad. It's one of those things where you feel bad about tearing something to pieces inherently. But the way it was written and the way it was made, I kind of feel sorry for the actors and crew members who worked on it, because the way this thing was written and the way the producers decided to do this thing, I mean, they made it so easy to bash it. It was so bad. But don't worry, guys. This isn't going to stop me from watching other films or reviewing them. I will continue with my review series, and that's going to be all for today. Have a good night, guys.